Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Irish Breakdown podcast brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Happy Tuesday. Also, happy Veterans Day, everybody. I know there's a lot of former military members in the Irish Breakdown community, and then obviously a lot within the Notre Dame fan base across the country. So just wanted to take this time to wish everybody a happy Veterans Day and give thanks to those who made the sacrifice to go out and serve, and because it is a choice, and for those that went out and serve and are actively serving. So happy Veterans Day to everybody from us here at Irish Breakdown. It's very much appreciated, more than words can express. But today, Bryan, we have a really exciting show coming your way. It is also game week for Notre Dame. They're gearing up for what will be their last regular season ranked opponent. And no disrespect to Syracuse or Stanford, there's literally no way that they become ranked in the college football playoff rankings by the end of the season. So this is a big one. But before we get into that, Bryan, there's been some, I guess, lack of a better word, craziness going on in college football recently, really ever since the playoff rankings came out. Mm-hmm. And what we wanted to do to start off today's show, before we dive into the Notre Dame versus Pitt preview and an overview of Pittsburgh as a team, we wanted to kind of respond to some of this craziness, man. And Bryan, there's just no way around it. There's just some fan bases that are just kind of losing their minds.
Yeah, I want to have I'm gonna do a little calling out today, and then we're gonna do a little history lesson because there's a lot of ignorant fans in college football out there. There's a lot of ignorant writers and people that allegedly cover the sport of college football that just really seem to take pride in talking out of their hind parts. Like it's like the scene from Ace Ventura, where he's talking to Einhorn. And he bends over and he's literally talking out of his hind parts. That's how I feel I've been exchanging with people on Twitter today. Or this past week. So we're going to do a little history lesson with people. But to begin, Trev, my question is, when did so many coaches become such whiners? Like, you've got Joey McGuire crying. Like, first of all, nobody knew who you were 5 minutes ago. Right? Like, and this is the first thing you want to do. You have a great win over BYU. Most Notre Dame fans I know have enjoyed watching that Texas Tech team play. Most of us have a lot of respect for the job that James Blanchard's doing building that roster. I mean, bro, you're not even the primary driver of your team's success. James Blanchard is. Like, don't think that the boosters wouldn't can you in a heartbeat if Lincoln Riley said he wanted that job. Let's not kid ourselves. So I'd also like to remind him that the last coach that went before the press and decided he wanted to call out Notre Dame for being an independent, he's currently unemployed. It's like there was a guy that said something on Twitter and he said, you guys are just mad because now we have a seat at the big boy table. And I said, no, nobody's mad about that. We're welcome. Notre Dame fans especially welcome. But just don't think that that's a permanent spot. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I was a kid, if my dad let me come to the big boy table at Thanksgiving and I acted a fool, he'd take belt to hind parts and then send me back to the kiddie table. I just want to say that's an option for you if y'all want to keep yapping because you beat BYU and a bunch of Big 12 teams. So it's kind of like, man, I was really hoping I could root for you guys. But then your head coach turns into a whiner, and your fan base turns into this just the most moronic group of people I've seen on my X feed in a while since I was engaging with Penn State fans. I mean, it's really been frustrating. And then, of course, Pat Narduzzi this week makes one of the dumbest I mean, he's made a lot of dumb comments. Well, I don't know. I'm fine if we lose 110-10 as long as we win our next two games. If I'm Marcus Freeman, I'd be like, bet we'll try to make that happen for you. I mean, I'm serious. Like, put Kenny Minchie in the game and throw bombs. Seriously, it is kind of annoying, but also I kind of love it. Like, keep talking that talk. Give this Notre Dame program more reason to be pissed off because I've said this a million times. Marcus Freeman is at his best when he's pissed off. Did you guys remember his facial expressions about halfway through that press conference with James Franklin? When James Franklin was talking about his hairline and trying to little brother Marcus Freeman? And what the Notre Dame players said when Freeman came back from that press conference. Yeah, go ahead. Keep talking trash about Notre Dame. Keep talking trash about Notre Dame. See what happens. Because all I know is we've been begging for a reason for this team to be motivated beyond just the playoff. And now it's like you guys are all giving them a reason. And you better pray, Texas Tech, that you're going to have to win a couple games before you get to Notre Dame in that bracket, because it's not going to go well for you. Notre Dame's not the Big 12. And do you really want Notre Dame to join the Big 12? Because you do want to have a chance to win it from time to time, right? So, I'm just saying. There's a reason that the Big 12 is really the only conference Notre Dame really schedules anybody, because you're not a serious conference when it really comes down to it. You're closer to the AAC than you are the SEC. Let's just be real about that. Okay, and I'm a fan of your league because they're entertaining games, but they're entertaining games because your whole league is kind of mid.
Yeah, so the MAC is entertaining games,
right?
Like
exactly.
That doesn't make.
I love MACtion.
There's been this growing trend, and it really goes back to last year. It's teams that get newfound success. There's really a pattern of like people, coaches, fan bases acting like they haven't been here before, and that's what it is. Look, man. Texas Tech has one double-digit win season since 2008. Don't talk to me about the big boy table.
Right.
Getting a ranked win is a big boy. Win your conference first. You might be in the line at the restaurant to get to the big boy table. You're not at the big boy table yet. You miss me with that. But it's everything. It's at least one coach I know has backed it up. Kurt Cignetti came in and talked about how he beats the you-know-what out of ranked teams last year at IU, and it's like, all right, buddy. You're having like the best season that IU has ever had as a program. I pumped the brakes on that, and now it's starting to come to fruition. Like, okay, I can respect that. But you have like Rhett Lashley spouting off at the mouth talking about, Notre Dame not being in a conference after SMU's one good season ever. Like,
right.
Okay.
I'm just want to remind you what happened to SMU when they got to the playoffs, Trev. What happened to them?
Ooh, the term belt comes to mind.
Right. Who beat them convincingly?
Yeah.
Penn State?
Mm-hmm.
Who ended Penn State's season? Yeah, dude, you lost to Wake Forest a week ago. Literally, you need to sit down and shut up.
Yeah,
like really.
This one ain't it. And I'll say,
and you're 0-2 against the Big 12 because the Big 12 didn't want you. So just some of y'all, like, look, if Kirby Smart wants to talk trash, like, okay, I know Notre Dame won last year, but he's still 2-1 against Notre Dame. He still has 2 rings. Notre Dame doesn't have any in the last 30 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Ryan Day wants to talk about Notre Dame, he can talk about Notre Dame. He's 3-0 against Notre Dame.
Yep.
Outside of that, everybody else needs to kind of sit down and shut their pie holes and focus on themselves and worry about themselves, because it is kind of hilarious. I mean, like BYU fans are still talking. You couldn't even beat Texas Tech. You just got smacked in the mouth by Texas Tech. And I get it. You're mad that Notre Dame didn't go out to Provo for the game they are honored. And you know what? Honestly, BYU fans have a right to be upset about that. Notre Dame had said some things to BYU about how they would help them out and schedule them, and Notre Dame didn't honor sort of their verbal agreement in their contract. I'd be pissed about that too, and I would like to see Notre Dame go out and play BYU. I've said for a long time that I thought Notre Dame should play BYU more. I think Notre Dame should schedule UConn every year until UConn's no longer an independent. I'd rather see that than Rice, So, but the point is, Trev, is there's a lot of coaches and a lot of teams, a lot of fans that have that Notre Dame derangement syndrome going on right now. And I kind of dig it. And I've been saying this for a while. People are afraid of Notre Dame becoming a power again. And you're seeing that panic now. It's quite interesting. But I also, Trev, wanted to have a conversation today about 2 things I keep seeing being talked about. And that is about it's really 2 different aspects of Notre Dame not joining a conference. One is they're playing by a different set of rules, and then the second one is that Notre Dame hasn't joined a conference out of greed. So, my friend, we're going to do a little history lesson. The first one's easy. Name me the rule that Notre Dame has an exception for, or name me the rule that Notre Dame is violating that allows it to be independent that other teams can't do. I'm waiting. That's because there is no rule. Any team that wants to be independent has every right to be independent. Well, Notre Dame thinks they're better than everybody else. That's why they're not in the conference. You're showing your ignorance again. I want to remind people, I'm going to put the article in the chat right now so people know. I'm going to put the parts 2, 3, and 4 in there for people to read. This is the series that we wrote that I had Andrew McDonough write a couple years ago, because whenever I want something like really well done and researched, I have Andrew write it, and he does great work with it. Obviously, Andrew is a Notre Dame grad. He's also a smart football guy. He's the offensive coordinator for high school out in Washington. Their team made the state playoffs this year, so congrats to Andrew and his football team. But I want to remind people that Notre Dame back in 1898, was it 18? Let me pull this up. I want to get dates right, Trevor. In 1895, the Western Conference was formed. That became the Big Ten Conference. Notre Dame applied. They were rejected. Notre Dame applied again in 1908, and they were rejected. In 1909, Notre Dame played Michigan in Fielding Yost. Michigan had won all 8 of the games they played, had absolutely dominated Notre Dame. Combined score of 121-10. In 1909, Notre Dame beat Michigan
11-3.
In 1910, about a day before they were supposed to play, Fielding Yost canceled the game. So do you guys want to know why Jack Swarbrick did you dirty like that in 2013? Because that's called payback. He did that 24 hours before a game. Notre Dame tried to get into the Big Ten 2 more times. It would be 1908, and then again, I believe in the 50s. Each time, Notre Dame was rejected by the Big Ten, which at the time was called the Western Conference. Eventually, it became the Big Ten. And let me see here real quick. So let's see here. He did succeed in blocking, though Yost could never convince his fellow Big Ten members to stop playing the Irish in football again. He did succeed blocking one final Notre Dame attempt to join the Big Ten in 1926. And so Notre Dame was forced under Newt Rockne to say, well, if Michigan's trying to block us, because remember when all these people saying, oh, you got to play Michigan. Michigan's such a great rivalry. No, I don't think that it is. After Notre Dame beat Michigan in 1909, Michigan canceled that game, and they did not play again until 1942 and 1943 because both teams needed games during the war. And then they didn't play again until 1978, all because Michigan ducked Notre Dame because Fielding Yost, it's not about Fielding Yost being afraid of Notre Dame. He didn't like the fact that they lost to this team. And well, we taught you how to play football. Well, yeah, and maybe too well because we got better at it than you did. But also there's a lot of anti-Catholic bigotry going on there. Now, keep in mind, you're talking to someone who's not a Catholic. I've never hid that fact. So Notre Dame was forced to, because they were rejected 3 times from 1895 to 1926 from joining the Big Ten, they were then forced to then go become a national team because Fielding Yost got some of the Big Ten teams to not play them. Not all. Michigan State would play them. Purdue would play them. But a lot of the teams wouldn't. So that's why they went and had to play USC. That's why they played Army. That's why they played all these teams. Because of that right there. Navy, teams like that. And so Notre Dame was forced to stay an independent by the Big Ten. And so what did Notre Dame do? They proceeded to go build their program to become the national brand that it is today. So then in the 90s, when Notre Dame's this huge brand that can get their own TV deal, then the Big Ten and Jim Delaney like, no, we love you guys. We want you guys in the league. And Notre Dame rightly told them to take that invitation, shine it up real nice, turn that sun sideways and stick it up your candy butts, as the great Rock has once said. That's what you can do with your Big Ten invitation. Because now we had to go do it all on our own, build up our program all on our own, become this national brand that's not tied to another conference, and now you want us to join the conference. Now you want us to be part of it. Well, Notre Dame plays by a different set of rules. There's a reason that other teams join leagues. They didn't want to do that. No, listen, let's history lesson number 2. Anything to add so far, Trevor? Because I'm cooking right now, buddy. Anything you want to get in there? Okay. History lesson number 2. Your team did not join a league, and a bunch of teams did not join leagues because there's any tradition to it. Because let's be real about something. The last 10 years have taught us there's no tradition. What tradition does the USC and Oregon, Washington, and UCLA have with the Big Ten? What tradition does Texas and Oklahoma have with the SEC? Did you know that South Carolina was originally an ACC member, not an SEC member? Did you know that the last time Notre Dame won a national championship, South Carolina was an independent? Did you know that the last time Notre Dame won a title, Florida State, Miami, Penn State, Pitt, Boston College, Louisville, all independent teams? Do you know why those teams stopped being independent? Let's do a little bit of homework. Let's have this conversation. In 1981, Oklahoma, with help from Georgia, sued basically the NCAA. Because at that time, the NCAA controlled what games were on TV, who could be on TV, how many times teams could be on TV, and then how the money was distributed. Because they wanted to make it fair for everyone and make sure everybody got a piece of the pie. So those two schools sued the NCAA. And then eventually, I believe it was the ACC, the SEC, and one other league joined the suit. And it went all the way to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court ruling, in short, allowed teams to start to kind of negotiate their own contracts, which it was this organization that was doing it on behalf of the teams. But eventually got to the point where the conferences took control of that, and they started finding their own TV deals. They started signing their own deals. That's ultimately what a lot of what the SEC championship started in the 1993. It was for TV money, so they could get TV money. And in 1994, the SEC signed with CBS. Now, up until that point in time, the SEC had not changed in years. So Alabama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, Tennessee, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, Tulane, and Sewanee were all original members of the SEC. Arkansas was not, South Carolina was not, Missouri was not, Texas A&M was not, Oklahoma was not, Texas was not. Sewanee left in 1940, Georgia Tech left in 1964, and Tulane left in 1966. So from 1966 until 1992, you had the original members, the 10 members: Alabama, Georgia, Florida, LSU, Tennessee, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. And then you're working on this TV deal. The Southwest Conference blows up because of TV money. So Arkansas joins the SEC. South Carolina, with all this going on in TV money, now keep in mind, by 1992, South Carolina joins the SEC. Arkansas joins the SEC. Now, what had happened before then? Notre Dame had signed their big contract with NBC. Penn State left to go join the Big Ten in 1990. Florida State left in 1991 to go join the ACC. And then Boston College, Syracuse, Pitt, Rutgers, Miami, Temple, Virginia Tech, and West Virginia all left the independent league to go to the Big East, because the Big East had signed a TV deal and they were going to start emphasizing football because they wanted to tap into football money. If you want to know why the Big East basketball conference blew up, go watch Big East Requiem. It's one of the 30 for 30s. Outstanding job of how the greatest basketball league that I've ever known was destroyed because of people's pursuit of football money. So that all happens. South Carolina leaves the independent in 1992 to join the SEC. 1996, Louisville, Cincinnati, Memphis, Southern Miss, Tulane, East Carolina, and Army all leave being – Army actually was 98. In 96, all those teams left to go join Conference USA. And then basically left Notre Dame and Navy essentially as independents. And then other teams have been independent over the years because they keep getting booted from their leagues. You know, so Temple joined the Big East. They got kicked out of being in the Big East. They were back to being an independent in 05 and 06. Then they joined the MAC for a few years. Then they went back to the Big East after some teams left, and then eventually settled in the American Conference. So why did all those teams miraculously leave in the early to mid-90s? Was it because they all grew a conscience? They all realized, you know, this isn't fair that we're independents. This isn't right. We should do this. We should all join leagues. We got together and we had a meeting. It was the Independent Justice League meeting, right? We're at our table. You know, you got Notre Dame over here, Penn State over here, Florida State over here, Superman's over there, Batman's over here, the Green Lantern's over there, right? you've got this Justice League meeting of the independents, and they decided as a group, all 21 of them, we're going to go join leagues because it's the right thing to do. Penn State, we nominate ourselves to the Big Ten. Florida State, you're going to the ACC? Cool. You guys already have a basketball league, so you're just going to turn that basketball league into a football league? Cool. All right. Notre Dame, what are you guys going to do? Nothing. Notre Dame, we agreed. No, we didn't agree. None of that freaking happened. What happened was leagues could start negotiating their own contracts, which meant certain leagues were getting bigger deals. And so the independent leagues weren't Notre Dame. Penn State couldn't get their own national TV contract. If they could, they would have. Miami couldn't do that. Florida State couldn't do that. So they joined leagues for one reason and one reason only: TV revenue. Now you're pissed off because one team who you forced into being an independent because you didn't want them built themselves up to become the premier program from a revenue standpoint, and now you're pissed that they can stand on their own? Let's not forget, Texas tried this. They tried to go independent financially when they started the Longhorn Network. How'd that go? Didn't go well. Do you think that, well, tradition. All right, cool. You can miss me with that tradition stuff because the Big Ten Conference has, 18 teams in it? The Southeastern Conference has a bunch of Southwestern schools. What is Texas southeast of? Alaska? So you can miss me with the whole, that's not fair. The Big 12 has how many teams in it, Trevor? 16.
16.
Why? Well, tradition. No, there is no tradition. The Big 12 didn't even start till 1994 because the Southwest Conference blew up. They got rid of the Big 8. They formed the Big 12. It's basically the new version of the Big 8, but it was a new conference. And now there's 16 teams in it. The Big 10 has 18 teams in it. The Southeastern Conference has Texas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas. There's nothing southeast about those teams. But why did all that happen? TV money. Well, Notre Dame's greedy. Until recently, Notre Dame made far less money than any SEC team or Big Ten team made in TV money. If Notre Dame was greedy, you know what Notre Dame would have done if they were greedy? They'd have joined the Big Ten in the 90s. Do you know what they would have done recently? They wouldn't have re-upped with NBC. And I've heard reports that their TV deal is about 50, between what they're getting from NBC and then what they're getting from the ESPN as part of the ACC network, right, or ACC deal. I'm actually looking something up. That I've heard anywhere between 50 to 75 to $65 million is what Notre Dame is going to be getting with their new TV deal. Well, I mean, but they get all of their playoff revenue. Yeah, because they're not in a league. But guess what? Even with that playoff revenue, do you know what the projected earnings for the Big Ten schools are? Between $80 to $100 million. Between $80 to $100 million. So even with the money they're making on their TV deals, even with making the money they're going to make in the playoff, now they're at best breaking even with Big Ten teams. At best. So if this was about greed, Notre Dame would be doing exactly what you morons all did, which is leave the independent. You know why BYU joined the Big 12? Because they couldn't afford to not join the Big 12. There was no, you know what? It's just the right thing to do. We should go join. No, you had to join the Big 12 because you couldn't survive as being part of a conference. Need I remind you that BYU didn't leave being independent to join the Big 12? They've been in the Mountain West for over a decade. So this notion, so even if you're going to take a shot at Notre Dame, you're not even being factually accurate. BYU didn't leave being an independent. They were in the Mountain West Conference. They joined the Mountain West Conference and they were in the WAC up until 1998. They were in the Mountain. Sorry, they left independent. They were an independent until they joined the Big 12. I have it backwards. They were a WAC team back when those Lavelle Edwards, Ty Detmer teams, they were in the conference. They weren't independent. They were in the WAC. That conference folded. They were forced to go independent after joining the Mountain West Conference. They weren't forced to go. They chose to go because Notre Dame and Texas had worked out some stuff with them. They made the decision to go independent. They were independent for a little over a decade. And they realized, like, we can't afford to do this anymore. So they joined the Big 12. There was no long tradition of being an independent team with BYU. They couldn't survive on their own, which is why they went and joined the Big 12. So this notion that these grand gestures by these teams to just do the right thing and join a conference because it's good for the game, you have no idea what you're talking about. You're those people that spout off like political views simply because your preferred candidate says it. You do no homework, do no research, you have no knowledge of your own. You just spew talking points that you heard from somewhere else. You talk out of your hind parts because you think you know what you're talking about, but in reality, you're actually an ignorant person who should probably take 5 seconds and do this thing. Trev, there was this really cool invention a number of years ago. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. You have a computer, right? Obviously, you have a computer because you're on one right now. Okay.
Yes.
You know that thing called the internet that allows us to do the stream that we're doing today? Have you heard of that before? Yes. Vaguely? Yeah. All right, cool. Well, there's this really cool thing. If you open up like a different internet page, don't do it on the one you're on now because I don't want you to get disconnected. But if you go www.google.com, you can actually type in lots of cool things like, why isn't Notre Dame in a football conference? Or did Notre Dame try to join the Big Ten? Or why did all the teams? You can actually do this thing called research. Now, here's the hard part. It does require you to read. And I know for some fan bases that's really hard to do. Because if it's more than 240 characters, it's a little bit too much for my tiny brain to handle. I understand that. But you might want to try it. Or here's a thought, shut up. Like, worry about your team. Worry about your team. Right? Notre Dame's over here handling grown folk business. You go hang out in the Big 12. Hope you get your 1 or 2 teams in. Do what the ACC did last year, which is get your money and then enjoy your first-round exits. Otherwise, if you're going to be at the big boy table, you should maybe learn to read. You should maybe do 5 seconds of research. You should maybe, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. Because otherwise, you just look like what you are, a moron. So I just want to give that little history lesson for all these people that think they're just so virtuous that we join leagues because it's the right thing to do. Ohio State, Alabama, Texas, Michigan, USC, Georgia, Florida, they would all be independent if they could afford to do so. If they thought they could make more money being independent, they would do it. But do you know why Notre Dame can do it? Because Notre Dame's institution is built in a way, and it's ironic because the first time the Big Ten rejected them, they didn't think Notre Dame's academic situation was good enough. On top of they accused Notre Dame of playing ineligible players, the irony of Fielding Yost accusing other people of playing ineligible players is super rich for anyone who does that reading thing again. But it's just, look, you have the ability to, because of the work you did, because of you being forced to become something that you didn't even want to be at first. They wanted to be in a conference desperately. They tried for 30 years to get into a conference. And the conferences said no. So Notre Dame said, fine, we'll go do our own thing. And 2 of the greatest coaches ever built this institution into a football power, and some very good fathers who ran Notre Dame turned it into an academic powerhouse. And now you want to get mad because they did it better than you can do it? No, that just makes you look jealous. And that's a sad and pitiful thing. So I just had to get that little history lesson out there for all those people that think they know what they're talking about that actually don't. So you may not hear this. A lot of people don't like hearing things that are contrary to what they believe because they'd rather be ignorant than actually know stuff. Because if I know stuff, then I can't go be a moron on Twitter. So I'd rather just not know stuff so I can, in good conscience, still say stupid things on Twitter. Because you feel dumber when you say things that you know aren't true. I think most people do, unless you have no conscience. That's why some people don't want to know stuff. Because it's just easier to just repeat the company line when I don't know any better. So I just wanted to get that out there. So, yeah, I would also like to point out, Miami fans, that in the last 20 years, Notre Dame and Miami have played in the same number of conference championships.
No.
It's a facts day, Trev.
It is.
It's a facts day. So I just want to point that out.
It is a facts day. I mean, I think, one, everything that you said was extremely spot on. But two, I don't understand it's tradition to be in a conference. Well, if you felt that way, you wouldn't have blown up the Pac-12.
Yep.
That has conference roots going back to, over 100 years. But for more money, they decided to leave, and then they're going to point the finger at Notre Dame and say that they think they're better than everybody else. I'm here to say I do think Notre Dame is better than everybody else because they can do it, because they were forced to do it.
Yep.
And people might not like to hear that, but Notre Dame is what the other conferences, specifically the Big Ten, made them to be. And they also knew, even back in the 20s, before there was the internet, before there was all the stuff that you were talking about, that it kind of didn't make a whole lot of sense to join a conference that you have no regional ties to. So why would they join the SEC or the Southeastern Conference or the Southwest Conference, whatever it was back in the day? Because it made no sense. It absolutely made no sense. If they're going to do that, they might as well have just remained the national powerhouse that they were, because it involved the same amount of travel. Like
Notre Dame also can do math, Trevor. They can look at a map and they can do math, and they can say, "Wow, you're the Big Ten and you have 18 teams in it. We're good."
Yeah. We have conferences now that have West Coast teams and Midwest conferences. We have West Coast teams and East Coast conferences. But you're going to talk to me about how it makes sense to just be in a conference? Why? You're mad at the cut that you get from the college football playoffs? Maybe you don't have an 18-team conference.
There you go.
Maybe.
There you go.
The last I checked, if I had $100 and there was 10 people that I was splitting it amongst, all 10 of those people would get more money than if I tried to give it to 18 people.
Yeah.
There's
that math thing again, Trev.
I know, math and reading.
Yep. I will say this. I really am curious. I want to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah.
The latest thing is there's the private equity thing that people are talking about, the Big Ten is going through, and they're basically going to try to ram it through despite objections from Michigan and USC. Essentially, and this is a very rough recollection or recall of it, but essentially Michigan and USC have a choice. You either jump on board or you decide to get out of your grant of rights in 2036 when it's up, and then you are out of the league. And then I believe, if I've read this correctly, I have to do more research on it, so I'm willing to admit I may not have all the facts. I believe they would then essentially forfeit the money that was being given to other teams as part of this equity deal. And I just want to say to Michigan, who's one of the few big-time football programs that has an endowment that can match Notre Dame's, USC, hold firm and tell the Big Ten to go, themselves. I would love it if those schools pretty much just told the Big Ten to suck it. Because I actually think Michigan's one of the few schools that could survive on their own if they were willing. They would just have to find a TV partner. But here's the thing. The game is changing. And so part of the problem ESPN is having right now and Disney's having right now in their negotiations with YouTube is that what they don't realize is that you don't control the game anymore like you did in the past. And you're starting to see their strength is not what it was before. And so YouTube kind of called their bluff a little bit. Now, I'm not a big YouTube supporter. They're always gouging us and raising prices and all that kind of stuff. But you've got Amazon now trying to get into sports. They're now into college football or NFL. College football is right behind. Netflix is talking about getting into college football. The reality is it's not just ESPN, Fox, CBS, and NBC in this game anymore. The game is changing.
Yeah.
The streaming services are changing the game. I do believe with Netflix and Prime trying to get into the game that there might, if there's anybody at those programs kind of willing to explore the deals, I'd be very curious to find out what they could get from those networks to have USC and Michigan as new partners in their TV deals, right? And then Notre Dame could be like, hey guys, come join us. We'll play you every year. We'll help you out any way that we can. Because good luck with your TV deal the next time getting as much money as you have now if you lose Michigan and USC. Do you think the LA market was built around UCLA? That was just USC doing a solid of their boys and bringing them along with them. They didn't want nor need UCLA other than just USC was like, we're not coming without UCLA. That's all that was. So I would love it. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't. But I would love it because Michigan also has some giant boosters.
Yeah.
Like really big, wealthy boosters. And not just one. They've got a few. So I would love it if they would do that. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. We'll see if they do it. But, USC could go join the Pacific Conference and their other sports. There's some really good West Coast conferences that don't involve football that they could join for their other sports. I don't think they'll do it. I don't think Michigan will do it. But I hope that they stand firm because that would be amazing. Because it's going to take something like that to kind of blow this whole sucker up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in short, because I don't want to dive too much into detail with it because I'm not fully versed. Kind of goes back to the intelligence conversation. I'm not going to spout off about something I'm not fully aware of. I'm aware of it. I'm just not that in the weeds with it. But very surface level, I think Michigan could survive being an independent in football. You kind of have to figure out some other things in terms of other sports. But, I mean, shoot, Notre Dame's independent in football, Big Ten in hockey, and ACC and everything else. It's possible. Definitely possible. For USC, I think the answer is relatively simple. Join the Big Ten or join the Big 12. USC this year, I think, could go in and win the Big 12, contrary to what some other coaches may think in the Big 12. But that would also kind of help out and kind of hopefully negate some of the incessant whining that we hear from USC about all the traveling that they have to do. Maybe. But I think that fix for them would be easy if they didn't think that independence was the way to go. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I do think Michigan would be able to survive as an independent.
USC, I don't know enough about their situation to know that. I do know USC is a very good school that also has a lot of huge donors.
Yeah.
A lot of famous people in Hollywood are USC graduates because that's a tremendous school if you're going to get into the arts and entertainment, just like it's why Sean's daughter went there. You got Archer in the chat talking about the reasons why Rutgers and those teams joined the Big Ten. He got in late. So the whole point, Archer, is we know that. That's our whole point. So people crying about Notre Dame being greedy, people crying about Notre Dame taking advantage of the system and not playing by the same rules are simply ignorant and accusing Notre Dame, it's really projection. You're mad that you have to do all these things that Notre Dame doesn't have to do. So you project your own accusations of greed onto them when really it's you that is greedy.
And fundamentally,
there's no other reason for Rutgers, Maryland, USC, and UCLA to be in the Big Ten other than they wanted the New York, Maryland, D.C., and L.A. markets. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And fundamentally, like we said at the start of all this, Notre Dame is in this position because they were forced to be in this position. So you can't be mad if it's successful. It's plain and simple. And unfortunately, to what Bryan pointed out, to the lack of people wanting to do their own research, that just gets people in a spot where there's very lazy conversations about it.
Mm-hmm.
Very lazy. And that's unfortunately what this comes down to. Very lazy.
So I hope everyone enjoyed that little history lesson.
I did.
And that's not my opinion. That's not Notre Dame spin. That's something you can find if you just spent 20 minutes searching the internet. You could find it if you just read articles we've written about it. And Andrew put in there where he's getting all those things from. It wasn't his opinion. It was according to so-and-so who wrote and such, according to this report at the time, according to this document that backs all this up. So I just wish more people cared about actually knowing things before they said things that are stupid. But a lot of fan bases are like, it's like all these fan bases are like, Ricky Bobby the first time he raced, he's like, I don't know what to do with my hands right now. Like I'm in this spot. I don't know what to do with my mouth right now. I don't know what to do with my hands right now. Here's one thing, son. Stop tweeting. Stop tweeting dumb things. Joey McGuire, you worry about you, bro. You don't need to worry about the big boys. Okay, you need to worry about keeping Lincoln Riley from taking your job. I'm just saying. You were a high school coach 10 years ago. Okay, you need to pipe down and just enjoy the great season you're having. Why can't people just enjoy the great season they're having? Pitt's a hot football team. Why would they not care about this Notre Dame game? Oh, that's right, because Pat Narduzzi's in his feelings every year and wants to cry about Notre Dame, the ACC, they're not in our league. Stop crying. Don't get mad because Notre Dame dominated your league. Get better. Get better.
Yeah, no. Notre Dame joined your league once in 2020, smacked you on the road, and played for your conference championship.
Reached by 40.
The ACC.
Seriously, get better.
Come on.
Get better. If you don't like what Notre Dame's doing to your league, get better. Texas Tech was tired of being a mediocre program. You know what they did? They went and invested the money to say, we're going to get better. Kudos to them. And up until 5 minutes ago, I had a great amount of respect of what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then their fans and their head coach. And honestly, I wouldn't be upset with their program if it was just their fans. You can't control what your fans say.
Sure.
Notre Dame's got its fair share of fans that I'm like, God, I wish that guy didn't represent Notre Dame fans. Every fan base has those.
Sure.
But it's the coaches. Now it's Rhett Lashley running his mouth. Bro, you just lost to Wake Forest. You can shut up now. It's Joey McGuire running his mouth. It's Lincoln Riley crying about all the travel they have to do. It's James Franklin crying about the runways not long enough. You didn't know that before you voted to have USC join your league? Pat Narduzzi he's always crying about Notre Dame, bro. We get it. You're mad that they used to beat you all the time when you're Michigan State. We get it. You're upset about that. We understand that Notre Dame kept you from having a chance at a national championship in 2013 when you went 13-1 and the only team you lost to was a 4-loss Notre Dame team. We get it. You're jealous that you're not at Notre Dame. They would never hire you. We get it. You're mad. You're mad that Notre Dame comes in your league and constantly smacks you around. They're like 20, 30-something and 4 the last 10 years. We get it. It's jealousy. I understand. Just you worry about Pitt, bro. You almost got fired 2 years ago. Just enjoy the job you're doing. Enjoy the building you're doing right now. I love what Pitt's doing right now. It's a fun team to watch if it wasn't for the fact that I had to deal with their head coach on the sidelines. There's a lot of good stuff going on with these teams, and you should be celebrating that. Focus on you. Because, Trev, you made a great point. We only hear this from certain coaches. I'll let you make the point. I won't say it for you, but we only hear this from certain coaches. There's definitely some coaches we never hear this kind of stuff from.
Yeah, man, it puts it into perspective for you. It's the act like you've been here before. Who has been here before? Ryan Day, Dabo Swinney. Now, Dabo Swinney's comments this season have been weird, but it's been about their program. They didn't make the deal with Notre Dame, and Dabo Swinney's like, but they should be in the conference, because they handle business. They understand. They've been to the game. They've played the game. They understand what this is.
He also understands that Notre Dame has raised the bar.
Yeah.
He now has something he has to compete against when they're in the ACC.
Exactly. You don't hear it from Kirby Smart. You don't hear it from Marcus Freeman. And then it also
– you don't hear from Ryan Day.
No, and it also puts some other coaches into perspective for you. I'll say a lot about Dan Lanning. I'm not his biggest fan as a person. I like him as a football coach. Not once have I heard him complain about the travel. Mm-hmm. Because he knew when his Northwest Coast team joined a league in the Midwest, it was just going to involve travel. You have other coaches that are like shocked by it for whatever reasons that I don't understand. Shout out to Kenny Dillingham. They were projected to finish dead last in their league. They tasted success, and the only thing he talked about was what that team needed to do in the postseason, in the conference championship game, to give themselves in the shot of the playoffs. He didn't get a little taste of success and then start firing shots at other teams randomly. Also, not sure that I was ever going to say this live, but shout out to James Franklin, because at least he had the gall to do it to Marcus Freeman.
Had the balls to do it, exactly. In the press conference with Freeman there.
Sitting 3 feet from him. Yeah. At least he had the
dumb
to do that. Yeah.
But at least, yes, exactly, Trev. At least he had the stones to do it.
Yeah.
And not pretend like he's Marcus Freeman's buddy. I love Notre Dame. And then go run his mouth the next press, to pull reporters at the end of one of their open practices.
Yeah. Like at least he did that. Joey McGuire's out here trying to sneak this when we all know who you're talking about, bud. Like some independent teams. You're not talking about UConn.
Have the balls to say Notre Dame, because you're right, Trevor. You're not talking about UConn. I would have more respect for if you would just speak their name.
Yeah.
They're clearly in your mind instead of you enjoying a win over a solid BYU team. That's a good BYU team. We love what Kalani Sitake's doing. You just don't hear that from the guys that are competing for championships. You don't hear that crybaby stuff from them. Yep. You just don't. And I mean, it's frustrating. And that's why I like one of the things. I like Kenny Dillingham. I don't ever hear him talking about other teams and other than just being respectful. It's always about us, what we need to do, what we've got to do. I respect that. I didn't hear Kalani Sitake crying afterwards about, Notre Dame and this. No, it's like, look, we lost the game. We didn't handle our business. Our season was in our control, and we didn't play the way we're capable of playing. And props to him. Just this crybaby stuff. It's just like you guys, and I don't know, maybe they're getting kind of pushed from the league offices to go play this politic and stuff. But here, like, look, here's your deal. If you're going to cry about Notre Dame, well, look, Notre Dame's the team that doesn't have that. We can go lose 110-10 and still get into the playoffs. That's not me saying that. That's literally what Pat Narduzzi said. He said, I don't mind. I want to find the direct quote because I want to read, because it was so absurd that I just want to read the direct quote. So let me find it. So this is a direct quote from Pat Narduzzi. Let me find it. Somebody asked him basically about the significance of the game, and he says, absolutely not. It's not an ACC game. I'm glad you brought that up. It's not an ACC game. I'd gladly get beat 103 or 110-10 in that game. They could put 100 up on us as long as we win the next two after that. So basically what you're saying is we're in a mediocre league where the only way we can get in is if we win our league. That's basically what you're admitting. We're a weak league, and we have to win our league to get in. Like, I'm not a big Mario Cristobal fan. I couldn't imagine Mario Cristobal making a statement like that before playing Notre Dame. Couldn't imagine it. Could not imagine it. I couldn't imagine Dabo making a... Now, Dabo might say that about how the game doesn't impact their folks on win the ACC, but you better believe Dabo's going to be hyping up the Notre Dame game because he understands that's what gets kids to come here. We're going to get to play Notre Dame all the time. We get to play we get to play South Carolina. We're going to play Georgia. We're going to play the good teams. And this guy. This freaking guy.
Well, and the weirder thing about that comment, though, Bryan, is he wasn't asked about, hey, you guys have the opportunity to play for an ACC championship game. Is this Notre Dame game a must-win? He just got asked if it was a must-win game. Why? Yeah. Because the person who asked that question was like, hey, Pitt's kind of rising up in the conference. They only have 2 losses. They're 7-2. Like, in this world of there will be 2-loss teams, probably multiple 2-loss teams in this year's playoff. This is kind of a must-win game for you. And what he did was he was setting the expectation. Yeah. Like, he was, hey, we could lose to Notre Dame and still win the ACC. That's pretty cool. It's like, yeah, and?
But here's the thing. Your next 2 games don't win you the ACC. Here's the thing. This is where it's so dumb. That's a big game for us because if we can go, beat a team like Notre Dame, which we're going to try to do, then we're in a situation where if you lose the ACC championship game, you're still in. If Pitt goes into the ACC title game at 10-2 with a win over Notre Dame and a win over Miami, and they lose the ACC championship game, they're still in my opinion, because they'll be in the top 10 at that point in time. So it just is really annoying to see. And the other thing too is these people, it's easier for Notre Dame. I had a Tennessee fan actually saying this. Notre Dame plays a bunch of G5 schools. Again, just people saying dumb things because they heard somebody else say it. Tennessee plays 9 Power 4 teams this year. Notre Dame plays 10. It just like, dude, even in the two teams that Notre Dame played that aren't Power 4 teams have both spent at least a week ranked in the top 25 this year as G5 teams. It just, some of the stuff you're like, do you ever see the movie National Security with Martin Lawrence and what's that guy's name? Steve.
Yeah.
I I forget his name. And the one guy says to him, actually, what's that guy's name? That's going to bother me. Let's see, National Security Cast. It's Steve Zahn is who the other guy is. And he goes, do you actually believe that BS coming out of your mouth? And Martin Lawrence is like, I don't really know. I don't really know what I'd be saying until I be done saying it. You know what I mean? It's like, that's kind of how I feel with some of these people. You know, it's like, I'm just going to say whatever ignorant thing pops in my head without any kind of idea of what I'm saying. So Tennessee, for example, plays 8 conference games, and their non-conference is Syracuse, which at the time was a good win, because at the time, Syracuse is a much better team than they are now. They play UAB, New Mexico State, and East Tennessee State. So it's like, yeah, you could kind of shut up. Last year, they played NC State non-conference. Their other non-conference was UT Chattanooga, Kent State, and UTEP. So it's like, you know, Texas Tech. Your non-conference was Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Kent State, and Oregon State. Notre Dame's playing one more Power 4 team than you are this year. Because in your non-conference, you played a bunch of garbage. So that easier schedule includes more Power 4 teams than what you have to face. And this notion that by being an independent, it's easier. No, it's not. Because in leagues, teams tend to all kind of recruit and play to a certain style. Not schematically. Iowa doesn't recruit the same, do the same thing schematically Ohio State does. But there's certain things that are kind of carry over in all the leagues. You recruit the same play against each other. You know where kids are from. You know what the travel's like. You know what it's like going to Columbus because you go there every other year. You know what it's like going to Ann Arbor because you go there every other year. You're used to the trip. You're used to the locker rooms. You're used to what the teams play. You know what's worked against them. You know what doesn't work against them because you play each other every year. Notre Dame doesn't get that. I mean, this year alone, they've played, 3 teams that they've never played before? 2?
2, Arkansas and Boise.
Right. They're playing teams they haven't played, and they haven't played at Miami since 2017. That's not easier. That's harder because you don't have the book. This is what working. Like, what's the one team that Notre Dame plays every year? USC and Navy. Notre Dame has dominated those 2 teams the last 10 years. I think they're 8-1 against Navy, and let's see, so 16-25. So they're lost in 16, 1-17, 1-18, 1-19, 1-21, lost in 22, 1-23, 1-24, 1-25. So they're 7-2 against USC, and they're 8-1 against Navy in that same time span. So 16, they lost to Stanford in 16, lost to Stanford in 17, beat them in 18, beat them in 19, beat them in 21, lost them in 22, beat them in 23, beat them in 24. So they're 5-3 against Stanford. Like Marcus Freeman's 2-1, about to be 3-1 against Stanford. He's 3-1 against USC. He's 4-0 against Navy. The teams they play regularly, they have a book on. They know how to prepare for Navy. They know they've got to spend time in fall camp. And then they got to spend time, during bye weeks and things like that because they've had to face it. There's a reason Navy, after about 2 years, went down to, when they joined the AAC. Because the teams start getting a book on them. So no, it's not easier being an independent. In fact, it's harder because you do have to travel across the country. You do have to play teams from different conferences, which means different styles. Nobody does that. Nobody plays all 4 Power 4 leagues. Where Notre Dame does most years.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Notre Dame's not out here trying to schedule Big 12 teams. They're scheduling Alabama, Texas, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Ohio State. They don't have time for you in your little league. They already have a bad league they have to play every year. It's the ACC. They don't have time for you.
A lot of it just goes into conference bias. That's the last thing that I'll say. We've been saying this, and I've been talking about this for years, long before I was ever a part of Irish Breakdown. Teams live vicariously in conferences through their top teams. But it's always the same teams. It's always the middle tier teams. Like you always hear stuff from Penn State and from Tennessee and teams like that. Why? Because they can live vicariously. We play in the SEC. We have Bama. And it's like, and? They obviously don't have you. When was the last time Tennessee played for an SEC championship? Can't remember. It's stuff like that. living vicariously through your 18-team conference where you have 3 good teams, that just ain't it for me. It's not. I had one buddy I used to work with. He told me if Notre Dame joined the Big Ten, they'd be lucky to go 7-5. And the first team that he talked about was Wisconsin. Sorry, man. Like, it's just stuff like that. It's stuff like that where it's just, it all goes back to conference biases.
Are we going to really pretend like Notre Dame just beat them by like 30 something like 3 years ago? And that was a mediocre Notre Dame team.
In a neutral site game at Soldier Field where they played jump around.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. Be better. Just be better. That's all it is.
There's one Big Ten team that can talk trash about Notre Dame.
Yep.
2. Because Michigan beat them the last time they played and won a title recently. There's 2. That's it. Oregon can't say jack. I mean, you literally have a grand total of 0 national titles ever. And you played in the playoff last year, got smacked. You know, like USC can't say anything. Alabama can't really say anything. They could get away with it, but they really can't because Nick Saban ain't there. Georgia fans can still talk that talk because they want. Like, there aren't a whole lot of people that can run their mouths about Notre Dame. Like, as for you want to talk about the conference? I mean, come on, man.
Well, and the people that shouldn't don't. The people that could, like right. Ohio State, kind of don't.
Dude, like, I've seen more Ohio State fans talking on Twitter in the last month. Like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, now we'd smack Notre Dame, but like that's a really good football team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like they're secure enough with how good their team is, so they can watch them and be like, dude, Notre Dame's really good. This is not the same Notre Dame team we played last year. This team's actually really good. I've seen multiple Ohio State accounts put that out there.
Yep.
And then I got some Alabama fans talking about Julian Saying, Ty Simpson, and Francisco Mendoza, the 3 best quarterbacks in the country, and it's not even close. I'm like, well, none of them lead the nation in yards per attempt. And CJ Carr's ahead of 2 of those guys in passer rating. So, like, it just, like, you clearly, like, tell me you haven't watched Notre Dame without telling me you haven't watched Notre Dame. You know, tell me you know nothing about Notre Dame other than what people tell you you should think about Notre Dame. Oh, Notre Dame plays a bunch of G5 teams. Really? Really? The conference that has November FCS games like every year is going to talk, you know, really? Okay. And the whole, well, we play in the SEC thing, that doesn't carry as much water anymore. Because, like, I used to say, if you play in the SEC West, I don't care who you play non-conference. I don't, because you have to play in the SEC West. That's not the case anymore. One year you may have a tough schedule. The next year you may play a bunch of nobodies because there's 16 freaking teams in your league. So, yeah. I just had to get all that off my chest, Trev. I had to vent a little bit because there's been a lot of silliness out there.
There has.
And it needed to be called out. Because why you waste your time on it? Well, because I can and because I wanted to, because I don't like letting things just kind of be out there. I think when bad ideas are spewed, when dumb things are said, when people say things that are false, they should be spoken to, because the whole reason that this stuff continues to be said is because there hasn't been enough pushback. And I've said this for years. There's a lot of people that are petrified of Notre Dame becoming a national powerhouse.
And they're knocking on the door.
Yep. They're not there yet.
As much as people don't want to admit it. But it's great. It's a fun conversation to have, especially when Notre Dame is playing at this level. It really is. I mean, right now, I just went and looked. Notre Dame on FanDuel, they're tied 5th best odds to win the national championship this year.
Yeah.
And to the dismay of many fan bases, that's more than Oregon. It's better than Ole Miss, better than Texas Tech, to the surprise of really nobody outside of Lubbock, Texas. Better odds in Texas, better odds in Oklahoma, better odds in USC. You know, so people just don't want to admit it. They don't. Like, I think all this is, man, is I think last season scared a lot of people. People that respect Notre Dame, the Ohio States of the world, the Georgias of the world, because honestly, they do. Like, there's a very small portion of teams and fan bases, to an extent, that now respect Notre Dame for what they were. I think everybody else, it's kind of like an automated response because they're afraid of what Notre Dame could do.
I've had some conversation with some Ohio State fans who actually like talking ball.
Yeah.
Not like the trolls who just everybody sucks except our team. And like they're like, yeah, we were clearly better than you last year, which they were when they played. But I think the second half of that game kind of showed them, like, look, Notre Dame's got some dudes now. Like, you know what I mean? And I think their fans are smart enough to realize, like, yeah, we had our injuries too, but they had a lot of injuries. And, part of being a great program is that you don't have a lot of injuries, and Ohio State had fewer. But so it's not like, oh, they're afraid of Notre Dame and they don't think like, well, if you'd had Boubacar and this guy and that guy, you might have been. No, but they can still watch a team play and say, dude, that's a good football team.
100%.
That's what's hilarious, because I've seen a lot of Ohio State fans on X talking about, like, they clearly think they're the best team in the country. And my stance on that, Trev. They're the champs until somebody beats them.
Yeah. But
they're like, guys, like I saw some Ohio State account. He's basically like, you can get mad at me for saying this, but Ohio State, Indiana, Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, those are the only 5 teams that have a shot to win the title this year. Who's Notre Dame beat? You're a Big Ten fan and you're asking that question? Really? Like, really? So it's like Chris Felica had some nonsense he was spewing the other day. I had to put him in his place a little bit with some actual facts, because the problem with this whole thing is, Trevor, way too many analysts are looking at this and giving very surface level analysis. Oh, well, they're 7-2, they're 7-2. They won head to head. Therefore, no, therefore nothing. Therefore, that's definitely a plus in Miami's favor. But what about the rest of the data? Well, what's good for playing a team like Notre Dame? If you're good, well, imagine what their record would be if they would have played FAMU instead of Notre Dame. Where would they be ranked now? They're 18 with that win. Imagine what they would be if they didn't have that win. So there's just a lot of really bad takes, and I just kind of felt like it needed to be pushed back on, because I'm really honestly getting tired of just the constant stupidity, and having to answer the stupidity and respond to the stupidity, and just got to the point where I was like, you know what? It's time to kind of put this stuff a little bit on blast, Trev. And so that's what we did today. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I sure enjoyed that.
Well, folks, that is going to do it for part 1 of today's show here on the Irish Breakdown Podcast. Don't go anywhere, because we do still have a game to break down. Notre Dame takes on Pitt this Saturday afternoon. But before we get there, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Also, make sure you are subscribed to the CFB Nation channel. Bill Bender and Bill Trocchi went live earlier this morning. Bryan, I believe you're going live with them again when the playoff selection show, or the playoff ranking show, comes out. I
think it's 7 tonight. Okay. Correct. So we'll go live a little bit before 7. I'll be on with those guys. And then you and I and Vince and we'll go live after the show is over. So you need to be subscribed to both the CFB Nation channel and IB. We'll focus more like on the whole of college football on the CFB Nation channel. And then we'll talk first and foremost about Notre Dame, and then give our thoughts on the whole thing too. So yep. So we'll probably go live around 6:50 tonight, preview the rankings, then talk about as they're released, and then our show will probably go live 7:30 to 7:40ish. So just make sure you got your notifications on, so that way you'll know when we are in fact going live.
And as always, folks, the best way to support what we do here is subscribe to the premium message boards at boards.irishbreakdown.com.